Hi guys, Dmitry here, and today I wanted to talk about the subject that is near and dear to me. It's a subject of minimum focusing distance of lenses, or otherwise known as MFD. I'm going to use the word MFD. And essentially, this is something that is important to me because I like to shoot birds, small birds, and to get to small birds, I need to get close to them. And the closest I get to them, the better pictures I get. Therefore, the actual minimum focusing distance from the end of the lens to my subject is important. I'd like to know what it is. And in the last 5 years, it has become increasingly difficult to get this number. And I don't know who started it, maybe Tamron, I don't know. But specifically when it comes to telephoto zoom lenses, the manufacturer will advertise to you not their MFD at the tele end of the lens, which is where most of us are when we shoot with those lenses, but at the best place where the MFD is the shortest, which is often at the wide end of the lens, where I never use, which is somewhat misleading, but not necessarily cheating, because you can achieve that distance, that MFD, just not at tele end, but at somewhere else. And this is the number that goes around. That's what they advertise. And it's not just Tamron, it's many of the other manufacturers. Even Canon does that. Like if you look at the 100 to 400 RF lens advertisement, it's going to talk about 90 centimeters, but that's not 90 centimeters at a tele end. But let's talk about it a little bit later. So this is the subject that actually was brought up on Petapixel podcast that I heard a couple of weeks ago with wonderful Jordan Drake and Chris Nichols, amazing guys. And that was one of the questions, and I don't remember which one of them answered it, but the answer was that, yeah, that's true. It's hard to decipher, and that's why the reviewers like us, like them, basically will have to educate people on what it is. But I went to some reviewer sites, even those that I love, and I saw mistakes. I saw basically advertisements for MFD, which is not what it, which is basically what the manufacturer advertises it. In fact, I wanted actually to put some examples here, but I decided not to. So what did I decide to do? Basically, I decided to compile a list of modern mirrorless zoom lenses, or lenses designed for mirrorless cameras, and essentially figure out what truly is their minimum focusing distance is at tele end, MFD at tele end. And here's my list. And I picked, again, modern lenses designed for mirrorless, otherwise we're going to be here forever. So here's the list. If we look at the Canon, they have three modern RF lenses, zoom lenses: 100 to 400, 100 to 500, and 200 to 800. As you can see, 100 to 400 is 1 meter and 5 centimeters, which is not bad. Then 100 to 500, 1.2 meters. That is, out of all the manufacturers currently making lenses, the 500 millimeter focal length, 1.2 meters, is the shortest MFD out of all full frame lens manufacturers. If I'm wrong, point out another lens that can focus closer at tele end. 1.2 meters is amazing. And then 200 to 800 is 3.3 meters, which is, I guess, not great, but it's much better than 800 f11, which is over 6 meters. Now Sony, 200 to 600 is 2.4 meters, which is basically where most of the 600s are. The 100 to 400 is 98 centimeters, which is better than Canon. And if you look at Nikon, their 180 to 600 is the same, 2.4 meters, just like Sony, but their 100 to 400 is 92 centimeters, which is officially the closest at 400 out of all 400 lenses. The Fuji, 150 to 600, the same 2.4 meters, just like Nikon or Sony. Olympus, they're amazing. They're they're 100 to 400, 150 to 400, 1.3 meters throughout the focal length at every focal distance. And that's micro four thirds, so you're essentially shooting an 800 millimeter equivalent lens at 1.3 meters, which is very respectable. Now, their new lens that they made, 150 to 600 OM systems, which many people think is a Sigma lens, it's 2.8 meters at the 600. The Panasonic Leica 100 to 400 is one of the older lenses, still respectable 1.4 meters at 400. Again, twice double its 800. And 100 to 300 Panasonic is even the older lens, and so it's 1.5 meters. Now Tamron. The Tamron with advertises different number. 150 to 500 is 1.8 meters, so much worse than the Canon. 550 to 400 is 1.5 meters, which is again not like the worst. It's the worst from the others. Sigma 600 to 60 to 600 is 2.6 meters, which is a little bit worse than the Sony and Nikon, but still okay, I guess. And then 100 to 400 is 1.6 meters, which is not great. So here are the numbers. And the next question is there anything that can be done about those minimum focusing distances, MFD? Can you make it shorter? And you can technically. There are 3 ways to make it shorter. Each one has benefits, but at the same time detriments. So the first, the most common way is, well, let's take this for example, 800 f11 Canon lens. It has horrendous 6.1 meters minimum focus distance. 6.1 meters, it's hard to shoot any small birds that far. So one of the things you can do is pick up something that is cheap and called the microtube. This is a 35 millimeter microtube for RF mount. You attach it to this lens, and from 6.1 meters, your MFD now is 4.8 meters, which is still not amazing, but at least a little bit better. Now, the penalty is your aperture becomes even slower, and your autofocus also becomes less consistent. You can use this microtube even on something like 100 to 500, and again, except you're gonna have the same penalty of a little bit narrower aperture, and the autofocus becomes inconsistent. For example, with the 100 to 500 lens, it only works past, I think, 200 or 300 millimeters when you attach the tube to it. But it's one solution. The second solution is use something like a Rhinox 250. This thing has been around for 20 years or so. You basically straight attach it to the lens, to the end of the lens, and it then increases the it zooms it increases your picture to, I guess this one is what, 2.5 times. The quality is not amazing, and your autofocus is, you might as well manually focus at this particular point, but it's there. It's a little bit more expensive than tubes, but this thing has been around for as long as I remember. The third solution is, of course, the TC, the teleconverters. And that's another solution. There are 1.4, usually 1.7, 2.0 teleconverters. What happens is when you attach the teleconverter to your lens, your MFD stays the same, which is great. But essentially your 500 lens becoming 700. So essentially now you have a 700 at the same MFD. So obviously your subject looks bigger. The penalty is, again, your aperture becomes narrower and your autofocus becomes less consistent. So those are the 3 solutions how you can shorten that MFD. If this topic was interested to you, I would be happy to answer any of your questions also, and subscribe to the channel. I'll also add some more content, photography related. If you have any other topics that you want to hear about, photography related, suggest them. And if I know something about it, I'll let you know. With this thing, I didn't know as much as I wanted to know, but now I know because I did the research. So when you're buying that zoom lens for your camera these days, pay particular attention to what your MFD is, if you care, of course. Thank you, everybody.